I remember it too, like that you hear you read the sheets back in the day. Oh, these four guys get signed from Shawn Michaels school. What was that like for you guys?
So, man, I was so young that I didn't know no better. You know what I mean? I get signed. Wow. And now I'm with WWE. I'm nervous the whole time, but man, I was too nervous to talk to a girl in high school. Now I'm around superstars and I'm especially nervous. But I was also angry and I was also driven. And so that helped keep me afloat. Um, but man, it was weird. It was scary. Um, Being in Memphis, I really liked it. They gave me the key to the building because I was always in the building, and had a revolving house of different roommates. Danielson at one point, Lance Cade, Shooter Schultz, but so Ron Killings as well. Jason Sensation lived there for a stretch. Molly Holly lived there for a little bit. Joe Legend lived there for a little bit. Kazarni was there for a few weeks. So it was like I guess I was at the right age to be living at a frat house, and it kind of was.
So we went to Memphis, but what actually was it? Was it a school? Was it a territory?
It was a developmental territory without an instructor. They had um, a building with a ring, and our ring was the old 16 by 16-foot shotgun Saturday night ring, and we had a 90s like Yokozuna ring, like the ultra stiff ring too. We
I
didn't
did.
we didn't have a
Yeah,
yeah, like
I did
the ones.
jobs
Yeah.
back in the day. Those were rough
Oh,
rings.
oh, brother, we weren't even. I took one bump in there, and Regal said, "Nobody bumps in this ring. You're out there trying to make dudes look like stars to make a couple of $100, killing yourself on that ring. I can only imagine.
Yeah, man.
Awful ring."
Yes.
But all that to say is, we didn't have a coach. William Regal decided that he would take it upon himself. Tracy Smothers as well, but nobody was hired as a coach. They were just kind of in Memphis. So it was very loose and wild to think that what it is today with seven different coaches, guest coaches,
Yeah.
strength training, acting coaches, very different.
Promo room.
What's that?
They had a promo room. You go in there, work
Yeah,
on your promo. Wow. Yeah.
yeah.
How often did they run? And where did they
Hmm.
run?
So we would run every Wednesday at the Oxford Billiards Club, which is in Oxford, Mississippi, which is where the Rebels, the running Rebels, Ole Miss, the college. Anyways, that's uh, where Oxford was, and then we would run the New Daisy. Well, I think they kind of ended that on Beale Street, but we would just run throughout Mississippi, Tennessee, and Arkansas. Um, a couple hundred miles, but the only consistent show was both the TV taping at the Channel 5 studios and the Oxford Billiard Clubs on Wednesday.
Okay. And what happened? Did they release all four of you? Did they close down the
No,
territory?
so they closed down the territory. They opened up Cincinnati. Half of us got fired, meaning of the group. The only one who kept their job out of the four of us was Lance Cade. Lance Cade kept his job. He moved on to Cincinnati. And ultimately, a year later, I moved in with Lance Cade in Cincinnati. But Danielson, Shooter, and myself all got released.
How did you end up back there? Because you came back, then you
Uh-huh,
left and came back again, and you
uh-huh,
left and came back again, right?
uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh,
Got
uh-huh.
it. Okay, so we're at Memphis. You got released. How did you end up going back for that the brief run there?
Okay, so I wound up moving out to California to try to get to Japan. Then Chris Benoit recovers in Cincinnati from his neck surgery. Lance Cade calls and tells me Chris Benoit's coming to Cincinnati. I get this harebrained scheme to move to Cincinnati to train with Chris Benoit, and it worked. And here I am training with Chris Benoit, and then I get a call from out in California saying that opportunity to go to Japan has shown up. Can you be here in 48 hours? So, boom, I went to Japan. And because of those two things, WWE gave me a call a few months later. since I was doing Japan, living in Cincinnati. Ring of Honor became a promotion that started to get some sort of notoriety, and so I got a call from that.
Pretty crazy. You went back for such a brief run, but you were in there with guys like Kurt Angle, with John Cena. I mean, you were in there with some top guys.
Yeah, pretty crazy, right? And I didn't do any like meaningful programs or anything like that with anybody. But as far as like fun little trivia stuff, like, yeah, dude, I got to get chokeslammed by Undertaker. That's all right. I should be happy with that. I gotta do a rap battle with John Cena as a kid. That's pretty fun. So I should enjoy those things.
Did you get a chance to actually work with John?
We just wrestled in a squash match. You know what I mean? A 6-man tag. Ultimately, he beat the hell out of me in 5 minutes or less, and then off he goes.
Yeah. Hold on. Do you want to know what a wrestling nerd I am?
Mm.
I swear I didn't look this up. I didn't look this up. It was you. I want to say Benoit and Rhino versus John Cena in the FBI.
Yes.
Was that it?
Oh my God.
On,
Yes.
on my kids, I haven't thought about that match in 20 something years, but I'm weird like that with
Wow.
wrestling facts, man. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I did some
Wow.
research. I had some bullet points. That match wasn't even on the radar.
Yeah.
I'm weird like that. Because
That's crazy.
I remember John Cena coming in the ring and saying something like Monicati, I'm the real John Gotti, something like that.
Yeah.
I only saw the match once. I'm just weird.
Yeah.
I'm a wrestling nerd
Wow,
here.
dude.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's
Yeah.
wild. Your brain works different, man.
So you leave this is what Paul London told me, that
Yeah.
he said Brian was there. He wanted to wrestle. So he
Yeah.
said to them, I want to leave and go to Japan and actually, get a chance to wrestle. Is
Yeah.
that really how it went?
That's how it went.
Wow, man. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it was so I what it was is I was young, and I was wrestling guys that I thought I was better than. And that's I shouldn't have been thinking that way, but I wasn't wrestling Eddie, and I wasn't wrestling Chris, and I wasn't wrestling Kurt. And these are the guys I wanted to wrestle. So I went to Vince McMahon after a meeting, and I thanked him for the opportunity. I said, but I'm too young to not be improving. And he says, "What are you suggesting?" I said, "I'm suggesting I go back to Japan to wrestle guys who are better than me." And he said, "Go get your release," and I did. Um, and that was it. That was it. And I mean, ultimately, where I am today is because I left my coaching position at WWE because I wanted to go wrestle again. At 43 years old, I wanted to go wrestle. I'm 44 now, and the gamble didn't pay off. But in a way, it did because I am out there wrestling again. And, what I'll say is this: is the while I love the coaching, and I really do, it's the only job in the world that can take my passion away from me, and that's wrestling. Is working for a wrestling company, and if they don't allow you to wrestle, if I'm a chef, I can still wrestle. If I'm a teacher, I can still wrestle. But if I work for a wrestling company, they can dictate if I wrestle or not. And that's my art, and that's what I do. So, anyways, yeah.
Well, you got balls and you got heart. Like, that's
Thank
crazy.
you. Thank
How old were
you.
you when you asked for a release? How
That
old were
was
you
like
then?
23. I think it was like 23 at that time.
Go up
Yeah.
to 1,023-year-old indie wrestlers right now and say, would you ever leave the WWE? That's just, man. Yeah,
It was crazy. It was crazy.
that's amazing.